I uh, welcome all of you. Revolutionary greetings on the behalf of AISA GS Cash. Today we are all assembled here basically to have a conversation around the Transgender Person Protection of Rights Amendment Bill 2026. So we have two speakers, Rumi Harish and Nikhil, with us, who will share their views on this bill. Thank you, Rumi Harish and Nikhil, for joining with us. So, before moving to our speakers, I'm just going to say something. When we say that identity is not a diagnose, who you are is not something a system, authority, a label can fix or assign. It's not about bureaucracy. It's not about paperwork. It's not about categories or official jargons. It is all about how you feel or how you express yourself. But the recent bill, which was tabled by Virendra Kumar, Dr. Virendra Kumar, the Social Justice Minister for Union Minister for Social Justice and Empowerment, does the totally opposite. It contradicts what I have just said. It seeks to replace the right to self-perceived gender identity, which was protected by the NALSA judgment of 2014, and which also remains the core defining feature of the Trans Act of 2019. And this is not under threat. When we are having this conversation around this bill, we can see that there are struggles going on all over across states, universities, and people joining us and saying that this bill should not be passed. And it is not we, as we all are saying and we all are affirming. It selectively determines who is a trans and who is not a trans. It's sort of trying to regulate the identity of being trans, and it seeks to give its own bureaucratic and religious definition, which they decides who they are going to protect and who they decide they are not going to protect. So they are sort of creating this binary within the trans community itself by dividing trans community by recognizing some and also not recognizing some people based on their own sort of self-recognized definition. So there is a deep tension between selfhood versus bureaucracy, legal identity versus what I can say official recognition or Sankhi recognition, and also freedom versus police or regulation. So I won't be speaking a lot. Let me introduce our first speaker. So both of our both speakers have this 15 minutes gap. After that, I will open the floor for the larger discussion because I think the people from the various units and states will going to have their own doubts and concerns. So Rumi Harish is a gay trans masculine person and activist who has spent over 26 years working on social justice and human rights, especially with the sanitation workers and trans and especially closely working with the trans and queer communities and sex workers. He's also a Hindustani classical musician and writer, a performer. His work spans theater, poetry, and research, including his autobiography. And he is also honored with the Karnataka Sahitya Shri Award and also recently featured in Transit. So, Rumi, it's over to you.
Hi, I would actually prefer something like more of a question answer session. So I'll just not take 15 minutes and all that. I'll just give a very small brief about. I don't want to explain the amendment because I'm sure you would all read it. I want to kind of go to the concepts with which people have tried to bring out this amendment. Um, First of all, they're essentializing the sex, as in, I'll say only good thing about this is that somehow they have managed to understand the concept of intersex, which we were all trying to explain for ages now. But Now the assumption is clearer to us, especially when the minister also uh, talks about this with the term called Ubhailingi, which means we are two gendered. And it's very funny that the assumption is that we are a defect, it's a defective body that is born into this and cannot be rectified. It cannot be rectified based on the concepts and understanding of cisgender. So if you look at the how the definition narrows the entire understanding of self-recognition, says that a person with socio-cultural identities such as Kinnar, Hijra, Arwani, or Jokta, and a person with various variations at birth, primary sexual characteristics, external genitalia, chromosomes, or hormones from the normative standards of male and normative standards of male and female body. And they also have included something called as eunuch, a person who is forcefully castrated. There are three ways to look at it. One is going essentializing sex. Two is to understand that there are only intersex people and choice of self identification does not exist. And three is by for some chance, for whatever chance that it is, that if you are castrated, only then you can become a transgender. Uh, Medicalization essentially. So an entire lot of trans men, trans women, gender non-binary, gender non-conforming, gender queer. So the concept is that the state is not ready to accept any multiple gender concept. The state wants to only look at the concept of uh, that you are eventually being there, you are eventually in a situation of not being able to uh, not being able to have a remedy for not being cis or not being cis. There is no remedy. That is how it looks at the present thing. So it has become extremely difficult for many of us to even talk about uh, our gender transitions. Then the second thing is, uh, if you look at it, how it criminalizes certain imaginary concepts. So, back in 1999, 2000, and all, I think we used to write one. It's very funny that I'm sharing this with you. We used to write something called as myths and facts. I'm sure in every movement we do this myths and facts. So all the myths put together is this amendment, where they feel that where they feel that this identity is something that you can easily box into a third space. Uh, I really don't understand how it uh, can box an entire set of people, but at the same time, it has been also very uh, for those who go and identify with traditional communities such as hijras. Like if I become a chela with another hijra and uh, I do the transition surgery under the chela, under the hijra guru or kinnar guru or whatever, or vani, then I'm legally recognized. But again, as a transgender only, that does not allow you to. We had argued to the extent that after doing the surgeries and all, we can still go ahead, and for those people who don't want to identify as transgender, they can identify themselves as male and identify themselves as female. But then here it collapses all those possibilities, and it is this transgender identity is available only for male assigned people, not for female assigned people at all. Like, so the female assigned people are completely pushed out of the window. uh, and it links up, so that's what I was talking about, this myth and fact sheet kind of a thing, no? So the myth, where at one point of time it was used to scare people, saying these transgenders will kidnap men or younger men, boys, and then castrate them and make them their servants and things like that. So it perpetuates that idea. So I see that the myths that we used to put together to demystify what is a transgender, they're all used now, they're all put together, and they are made into an amendment where there is absolutely no research, absolutely no study on understanding what exactly a transgender is, and the several studies that we have contributed to uh, right from the beginning, that is from 2004, 5, no, 2007. Huh. Uh, so, in the entire country, in different parts, different activists have contributed to the study of transgenders in various ways. Actually, schools and colleges and several spaces. All that has gone like completely washed out. What remains is a silly parcha that we used to give in public to talk about the transgender identity and demystify it, to make it like clear to people, saying people are clear now. But I don't think the government is. Our government does not want to be clear. That makes it very clear that government doesn't want to be clear about the concept of transgender. So yeah, I mean, so that's why the kidnap section comes back, mm, and then this force, the use of the word force in quotes. Uh, it's it feels like as though every other transgender person has like forcefully taken a young boy and castrated them. It's that very disturbing images. This amendment is also something, for me. What is disturbing is how this amendment is also a visual um, threat creator in the minds of the people. That apart from these situations, you can't be a transgender, and that still it still comes from it emerges from a very criminal uh, uh, background. That is, it is looked in the context of criminology, and it is looked in the context of pathologization. uh, it is looked in the context of hopelessness, haplessness, and not a choice. So whatever it is, they don't want choice. I stop here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Rumi, for your words and the way you already said a lot of things about how people are to declare, but government has no intention to have a clarity at all and sort of clubbing a lot of categories together, and we will have this conversation again. But I will quickly move to Nikhil. Nikhil, trans man, is a member of Sexuality and Gender Alliance, University of Hyderabad, SAGA. He's pursuing his M.Tech in artificial intelligence. He is one of the leading organizer, mobilizer against this bill with SAGA. Nikhil has lived experience of being trans man and who is also experiencing his identity. I would like to ask Nikhil to share with us your struggles and views, and so that we can have more conversation around it again. So we will get back to you, Rumi. Thank you. Nikhil. Hello.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Like I ended up leaving accidentally. I'm sorry for the azan going on in the background. But I would like to introduce myself. I am Nikhil. I'm from HCU. I am a second year master's student over there, and I am also a trans man. Now, as a trans man, as Rumi was talking earlier, my identity is completely erased from the bill. The bill defines a transgender person, and by the bill, right now, I mean the 2019 Act. Sorry, the 2019 Act defines a transgender person as a person whose gender does not match with the gender assigned to the person at birth, including trans men, trans women, whether or not such person has undergone sex reassignment surgery or hormone therapy or laser therapy or such other therapies, persons with intersex variations, gender queer, and persons having such socio-cultural identities as Kinnar, Hijra, Aravani, and Jokta. It also includes the right to self-perceive or self-determine gender identity. The reason I was able to transition so far, I've been on hormone replacement therapy for around 8 months now. And the reason I was able to transition so far was because I could self-perceive myself as a trans man, and I could go to an endocrinologist and get access to gender-affirming healthcare as a trans man. Now, with the latest definition of transgender that Rumi had mentioned earlier, which changes the definition to only include those with the social-cultural identities mentioned earlier, and people with intersex variations, I lose access to my own identity, which is no longer recognized by the law. I would also like to say that since, as I mentioned, I have been on HRT for like 8 months, hormone replacement therapy, which is gender affirming medication, gender affirming healthcare for trans men. This bill has a clause that criminalizes the facilitation of surgical and hormone procedures done with the intent of making a person assume a transgender identity. Now, this criminalizes facilitators of gender affirming healthcare, that is, like healthcare professionals and any activists who make receiving gender affirming healthcare easier for transgender people who are already so marginalized. So, the contributor, it also makes contributions to fundraisers for gender affirming healthcare criminal and punishable by up to a life imprisonment. Now, I would like to contrast this with the maximum penalty for physically and bodily injuring a transgender person for a maximum of 2 years. So we can clearly see that this bill does not come in very good faith to transgender people. And it also includes this clause that I'll just read the clause quickly, which states that whosoever by force, threat, coercion, allurement, deception, inducement, or undue influence, these words are used again and again in the bill. And it kind of shows that, like Rumi was earlier saying, that how transgender identities are reduced to something that comes by force, that comes by threat, that comes by undue influence, that is not natural, I'll continue reading that clause. It states that whosoever compels any person, whether or not such person is a transgender person, to dress, present, or conduct themselves outwardly as a transgender person against the will of that person shall be punishable with rigorous imprisonment for the term, which shall not be less than 5 years, but which may extend up to 10 years, and shall also be liable to fine which shall not be less than 1 lakh rupees. Uh, Now, like the wording around this makes it very easy to criminalize any sort of community support. And Me and a lot of other transgender people I know rely very heavily on this kind of community support. Things like leaving abusive households or escaping conversion therapy, helping with transitioning, temporary households, seeking therapy for mental health during transition, etc. And uh, this extends to providers of gender affirming healthcare as well. Uh, and it becomes difficult for healthcare practitioners, mental health practitioners, and community around a transgender person to be able to help that transgender person without feeling at risk all the time of being imprisoned just for helping that transgender person uh, survive in a way. And this bill also introduces a medical body in the middle for examining the bodies of transgender persons and making a report and then submitting it to the district magistrate, who then, if they are convinced enough that this person is transgender, depending on their own discretion, can give them the legal identity. If they are not convinced, then that person is denied this identity. Uh, when I'm talking about this, I would like to go back to uh, uh, the K.S. Puttaswamy 2017 nine-judge bench, who unanimously held that privacy is a fundamental right under Article 21, and it encompasses decisional autonomy, information privacy, and dignity. And this means that a transgender person's gender identity, uh, being their most intimate expression of selfhood, uh, it is constitutionally theirs alone to define. And any state mechanism, such as this 2026 bill and its district screening committee, which compels this medical disclosure, this psychiatric evaluation, and this certification to verify their gender. Again, this gender is being equated to sex, equated to something that is biological, which is completely unscientific. But to come back, this whole certification directly violates all three dimensions of this guaranteed right. And the Chief Justice of India, Chandrachud's concurrence explicitly referred to Nalsa Judgment 2014 and held that sexual orientation and gender identity are protected under privacy, thereby giving Nalsa's self-identification principle the full force of a fundamental rights guarantee and making any legislative dilution of self-identification challengeable under both the Nalsa judgment and the K.S. Puttaswamy nine-judge bench's judgment. And Puttaswamy further introduced a proportionality standard that requiring any state restriction on privacy to have a legitimate aim, a rational connection, least restrictive means, and proportionate impact. And this bill has none of them because, like, a test with the screening committee completely fails this mechanism, since the self-declaration achieves the state's record-keeping interest at far lesser rights cost. This makes Puttaswamy the strongest constitutional shield against any future amendment that introduces gatekeeping, removes self-identification, or subjects gender recognition to administrative or medical scrutiny. I would also not like to speak too much because I would prefer this session to be a question answer session, because I'm sure like a lot of people have a lot of questions on this bill. So I will stop over here.
Okay, thank you, Nikhil. Again, as you said, that it sort of criminalizing the transition process itself. Like it lies at the heart of trans identity that transition is a part of some is our existence, and somehow it is create collapsing all that way. Like transgender cannot be a way. They are sort of creating this biological definition for everything, or biological clubbing this very. There is some subtle what I can say, uh, biologically, I don't know, biologically defined or biologically bound, something like that. So they are sort of creating this categories. So as everyone, as both of speakers have requested, so I would like to invite everyone to join the discussion and ask question as much as you can ask, so that we can have more conversation about it and have a fight against it. Anyone with the question can raise their hands. Hello. Raise their hand and can on their video.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I have a question. My name is Gaur Shah. I am from West Bengal, Krishnanagar, Nadia. I have a question. What is the position of trans man in this bill? Trans man in the sense who is female applied body. I can't understand what is the position of the trans man in this bill. So I ask the question to the honorable speaker to clear my concept about this. Thank you.
I got your voice was not clear actually. Can you write it down? Sorry. Anyone else who want to have any want to share their views or have any question or concerns you want to share? No one.
I'm trying to write down my question. Please give me some time.
Yeah. Okay. Rumi, I would like you to continue. You was basically, I have this question actually. I was thinking about this. As you said, it sort of collapses erases the identities, especially persons who are assigned female as birth or have this transition. Would you like to continue on that? How it's going to be very difficult for them?
Can you repeat the question, because I lost the question? I had a call.
Oh, I was saying that you were basically hinting toward this collapse of the possibility of the people uh, uh, assigned as female as birth, but they somehow go through this transition, and how this bill trying to erase this whole process and identity. If you would like to say that on.
Yeah. So the thing is that right now I'm doing a project.
Your mic is mute.
1 second. I can't see. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. The thing is, right now I was thinking that most of the legal battles are done, and There are other people following. I started working on with my friends on a project called History and Mythology, especially for assigned female at birth communities who are queer and trans. Because everywhere we go, whenever we say transgender, the only available picture of a transgender is a Hijra or a Kinnar, Arwani, or this traditional communities of male assigned people, and never the female assigned people. And we started thinking of the question, why are we not visible? And in that context, we started looking for like how there is absolutely no record of trans men in the earlier centuries. Even in mythology, it is not there. So this, and now I understand after this amendment, the concept that is dealing with the idea of transgender refuses to acknowledge anything that assigned female at birth that they can even think of being men. So it's a challenge for the caste patriarchy in terms of how can a woman become man? That's impossible. So they've erased it. They've literally erased it. And that's how it affects us. It is not just erasing of the people's lives, but also the possible concept also. Uh, it is treated exactly like the uh, uh, what do I say? It is exactly treated like when Queen Victoria or someone, Queen Victoria was informed about the lesbianism, and then she said, no, 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 that's not possible. That's exactly how it is being treated even now. So anything assigned female, queer, or trans cannot be possible, which means it's still seen. So the government is still looking at it from a very sanatani kind of understanding where women have to be women. You can't be anything else. I i feel it's just an extension of the same in this modern era, in this contemporary era. I hope
Yeah,
that
yes, totally. It answers my query, actually. You are totally right when you say it's literally inspired by this total Sanatan logic, where they want to regulate women desire, women body, and they want them to be remain in the already prescribed category or with prescribed role, with prescribed limitations, what they are, they want to, they do not want them to have something other than them being women. They do not want them to challenge their already established order of patriarchy, and this is actually challenges everything. If women and female assigned at birth are going to transition, it's actually gonna uh, have a good fight against all the caste categories, religious categories, and the categories they have already formed, and they use it to mobilize against each other. It's a sort of, they feel it is a threat and they want it to remove it. So they are going to have this, I think, bill, which is very dangerous for every one of us who are living in the variant bodies or with the variant identities. I think it's going to be a very difficult for us to live like that. But we have to fight.
No, one more thing I thought of was one more thing that I thought of was this. See, that maximum that Hindu Dharma allows a woman to become is a Kali or a Durga. That's it.
Right.
You can become masculine like that, but you can't afford to have a masculine body, a masculine feeling, or you can't refuse your femininity. It is like a burden on your head. You have to carry it.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyone else have their questions or concerns or query, whatever, if they want to say anything? Anyone would like to say or add?
Okay, I am good again. I've tried to write down my write down in chat, but I cannot. Your question is also my question. I have tried to say the same question. So
God, your
um,
voice is not literally audible. You are not audible actually. Okay. Sorry.
One thing I would also like to add,
Yeah.
as Rumi was also saying earlier, um, this bill kind of reinforces all of the myths about the transgender community, about the myths that they kidnap children and adults and forcefully castrate them, etc. This brings my mind back to who spread this myth in the beginning, right? And I was reading through the Nalsa judgment, and I think the 14th or the 16th point, one of those, like stated that stated about the Criminal Tribes Act of 1871, and how it criminalized very certain communities that couldn't be taxed, and one of these communities included uh, social cultural communities of Hijra Kinnar people, right? And how from the Criminal Tribes Act, which was introduced by the British, uh, these kind of superstitions come, where over there also it was mentioned in the Criminal Tribes Act that um, these cultural communities kidnap and castrate children, and uh, like this bill also goes against the claim of decolonization that we need to move towards. So I think that would be a good point for discussion.
Right. Okay, someone has written this question. I'm going to read it for you. Nibi, this is Nibi. I was recently reading an article on the subject which mentioned how trans people have to undergo surgery to redeem any government welfare under the Transgender Person Protection of Rights Act 2019. How is the new bill different from the provisions already mentioned under the Transgender Persons Act 2019? Should I repeat?
I think that's exactly what Nikhil and I both spoke, right?
Right.
Should we repeat the same thing again?
No, I don't think so. It's not.
I'd rather go by that previous question. No, I was just thinking in terms of decolonization and all that. I don't think Indian assumptions are any different from the colonial rule. Uh, See, it's very rosy to write down saying that hijras were used by the Mughals and other people to take care of the queens and so on and so forth, and like as though it was all very easy for hijras to live in such before the colonization. We were all very nice, perfect picture. I don't think so. It is anyway like that, because if you even look at the story of Shikhandi, just imagine, even if a woman wants to take a revenge and wants and like takes birth as a man, even that is dismissed by Bhishma. Even that is dismissed. That in the present birth you are a man. It's not like, it does not say that you're neither man nor a woman. You are a woman in the previous birth. You wanted to take a revenge, and so you were born as a man. Did it say that your anatomy was different? Did it say that your, uh, you know, it doesn't detail into those things. but then even that is dismissed. No? So it's not like colonialization alone. Of course, the Criminal Tribes Act did damage, uh, and if you look at, for that matter, if you look at the victory of Khairati versus Queen Empress case, the earliest challenging of 377. So let's think, who was Khairati? Was she a Koti, a Hijra? What's her name? Khairati means a beggar. What's her name? In fact, her victory was the one which paved way for us to start thinking about it. Today, we are like, we don't even know who. So, being irresponsible about history, being irresponsible of not documenting lives, like in this present age at least, we are having some amount of uh, clarity in terms of existence of trans men, female assigned at birth, queer expressions and trans expressions. And I think colonization gave it a little more heightened, like it was, I feel it was like a black and white picture. Now it became a color picture after the colonization, and now we are like, done the AI effects for this color picture, faded color picture of myths, and we are trying to reuse it. That's how I feel.
Right. I I think they have also not learned from the experiences. They have also neglected all the experiences. Even they have not learned from the last judgment. Actually, they do not want to learn. They do not want to educate. They really want to just choose and pick the people. Okay, Loni has some question. Okay, Loni, please introduce yourself and ask the question.
My name is Loni. I am a women's studies, and I'm also an AISA activist. So I just wanted to ask, I mean, this is a question to both Rumi and Nikhil. If one looks at the Nalsa judgment itself, we see that Nalsa itself was oscillating between, say, multiple frameworks of recognition. So did it like affirm gender self-determination? Yes, but then it also repeatedly it invoked Hindu mythological references to establish the they did that as well. But then there were also parts of the judgment which seemed to conflate both vernacular and um, constructed identities, cultural identities such as Hijra, as well as transgender identifying people, all of them sort of bringing together into this bracket called third gender. So there was a tension in the Nalsa judgment as well, like all of the ideas that we are talking about today. So how do we look at this judgment? Obviously, it is a regressive one because it is pushing the struggle backwards. But then the Nalsa itself had a lot of contradictions within. So how do we look at it?
I don't think so. Nalsa was a regressive judgment. It was only very confused judgment because the petition was very confused. The petition just blindly followed a heteronormative life, uh, and compared it with transgender people, of course, only male assigned. And so um, the confusion of self-identification and the identities that it brought out and everything, and also the constant reference to the Arvani Welfare Board uh, is also something that they never understood. So in a context of socio-cultural community, uh, it was a wrong precedence that happened in the state of Tamil Nadu. If I say this, I'll be penalized, I'm sure. I don't care. But uh, the fact that a government authority determines our gender was itself a problem. That's what we were all talking, and within which the NASA judgment came. It's a very confused judgment going by the other judgments on sexuality and things like that. But at the same time, NASA judgment came up with a very, very open kind of definition for the transgender concept. Now, that kind of an open definition, which included people with intersex variation, cultural, socio-cultural groups, and the self-identified. That kind of an inclusive community definition uh, and the respect and dignity given for a choice, I don't think you will see it anywhere else. And I think that comes from the body which recommended the transgender what all should be there for definition, how it could go through uh, a, identification process, etc., etc. When the social justice and empowerment ministry did a consultation meeting long ago, this I'm talking in 2013, and I think that committee actually contributed a lot towards the judgment of NALSA, because it also quotes Yogya Karta principles and all that. It is, yeah, I don't say it is regressive. I feel it is a little confused judgment. That's it. But not like the regressive amendment suggested is this. Being regressive is this. That was a confusion.
Yeah, I also think that this one is pretty much regressive as compared to the NALSA. NALSA is open-ended actually regarding to gender expression and identity. So Nikhil, would you like to say something or would you like to elaborate?
Yeah, I also completely agree with that because even in its confusion, the Nalsa judgment is still kind of the gold standard for where transgender people go when they have legal troubles. So the fact that it had the right to self-identify self-identify gender tells us more than enough that it was not regressive as such. And again, this bill is not only regressive, it is draconic because like the wording that it uses for being transgender and the way it frames the transgender community in such a negative light. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Anyone else who want to have their views or concerns? Would like to join the conversation?
I just wanted to point out, sorry for interrupting, but I just wanted to point out that when I was talking about regressive, I was talking about this bill, but I was trying to point out the contradictions that existed within NALSA itself, even though it did give us the idea of the right to like self-determine. Also, if anyone of you would like to talk about why in this bill, uh, I mean, the language itself is not neutral, right? It is trying to almost villainize an entire community as the criminal community, which is on the lookout for young people, people who are vulnerable, and trying to force coercion. Why do you think it is this way? If anyone would like to jump in. And the second question would be, when there are district screening committees which are going to look at this fixed body and try to talk about verification and control, isn't it again surveillance of members of the community by the state, and second, again, this is policing, right? So why do you think this bill is talking about that in such a forced manner? If anyone would jump in.
I think Rumi has already talked about this forced mutilation and the parting.
Yeah, second part of the question, anything? I'm thinking about people, members from the community who wouldn't have the access to paperwork, people who have left abusive homes. How does that compare?
Okay. I can see there are people. Okay, Abha have some questions. I think we can take more questions and then Rumi and Nikhil can pitch in again. Okay, Abha, unmute yourself and
Hi. Can you hear me?
yes, you're audible.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have actually questions. I'm actually left speechless with this bill. Just concerns and maybe just an attempt to address, because even I don't have all the answers. The first is most of it has already been covered. This entire criminalization of people and this creation of certain kind of bodies. Which is just violence, and like I don't know what to say. And second, in the sense of the whole the sexual violation and rape that is written in the law, that people have to go through or that they are made to go through. I mean, this is again, I don't have anything to say. Um, I I don't even have actually questions as in what are we supposed to do and how are we supposed to do it. For example, as GS Cash, if there are students inside universities, then what is it that we're supposed to do? I don't have an answer. The second is a thought that I'm placing, like why now? Um, so for people who don't know, my name is Abha. I work with the Police Project, and now I'm sitting with these legislations that were passed. And one pattern that is emerging is this rapacious nature of capital and accumulation, which used to exist in colonial times, not just in India, but in Europe and those countries. And this is exactly what used to happen there, uh, where quote unquote bodies of women, or let's say witches, who were called as witches, they were burnt down so that a new form of capital expansion was possible. And maybe like what Ruby was saying, this Sanatan, this is a cultural thing of Sanatan, identifying who is a body of who is quote unquote woman or not allowing certain formulations to exist itself, so that labor conditions can be okay, like for the state to ensure that our bodies are there to serve the state and its capital needs. That is what I was thinking about, and maybe it's an offering. Yeah.
I think I think I was also thinking like when you all are sharing your views, how they are restricting or wanting that uh, uh, female born assigned as birth should not be male. I'm also thinking how they are controlling both, like how a man should behave, how a man should must be like that. They don't want to have this category, or they don't want to have this identification with the man. They also want to have this certain sort of set of standard. Who would look like a man, who be a man, what is to mean by masculine and other things. That's why they don't want they are having their gatekeeping of the categories and having this MCQ, and you have to choose uh, uh, from the available category. You cannot transgress the category that are already established. And like what is being a man is totally defined by the Dharma Shastra, but is cannot be translated by any other one. A man cannot be not like have different sort of expression other than being very angry, very sort of what I can say. I'm not able to jot it down, or I'm not able to articulate it, but they have a certain set definition of man as well. That was I was thinking about it actually. I thought I should share.
Just adding to what you're saying, people maybe, I mean, I was looking at these bills. It's the same thing that has happened in Pakistan in 2023. It's the same thing. I mean, they have written the same thing, saying that the whatever existing provisions of quote unquote, in that sense, the way trans bodies exist in Pakistan, it is against Shariat, and they have brought a bill in the Senate. And yesterday, United States of America, they have brought the Save America Act. I think it's a 51-48 whatever voting thing, and it's again, I mean, it's their SIR, I guess. It's the Americans' turn. It's their SIR, and they are, I guess, revoking trans rights there too. So I don't know if it is a moment for us where we are looking at all of these ideologues sharing notes with each other. Of, I mean, I'm not, in the sense that I'm not able to look at it as a isolated incident that is happening in India alone. Yeah, we'll end it there.
I think you're totally right when you were saying that across the globe, the trans are sort of being targeted. So I think it's a part of the core ideology that is basically ruling most of the state all over the globe. I think it's very much mobilized against trans. Rumi, would you like to say something? Nikhil?
Nikhil, you want to go?
No, please, you can start.
No, I think it's true because the day when it was announced, when actually last year, I think I was doing a play with my friends, and then Trump made the announcement of eradicating the identity of trans, and then I used it in my dialogue, and saying that in some country they've now like completely taken away the use of the word, as in they've taken away the identity of the trans. And then itself I had this hunch saying that somehow it is going to affect globally. And then Pakistan happened, and then now India. I think it's, and if you look at the war that's happening and the kind of politics that's happening and the frequent visits by India the ruling party people to the countries like America, where they are getting regressive on many issues, it's just replicating, I feel. I think it's so the issue with trans people is that, first of all, within India, we are not able to come together even as trans men together. I don't think we've even done a consultation of trans men only once. After that, we have not even bothered to come back together. Now I think it's like a wake up call that, we should listen to each other. Probably we should also listen to people who could not transition because of certain pressures, who have lived like 60 years, 40 years, 30 years. Like I have lived almost 30 years of my life without transitioning. And I took the decision only after I felt more comfortable, when the law was clear. Only then did I take this step. So I did my transition surgery and transition process when I was 47 years. Now I'm 53. And within 5 years, I lose the whole identity of myself now. Again, back to zero. So sometimes I've never felt actually that this would be revoked and this could be. I never thought of it also. So day before the last Friday when it came, the information came. For the longest time, I could not. There were so many rhetoric questions. And I felt very curious about myself as in terms of why is my mind going behind these rhetoric questions. It's because of the fatigue of fighting. How much to fight? How much to fight? How much to fight in our lifetime? And for all what? So I felt at one point of time, that's what I was sharing with my friend, saying that as if it was not enough to bring SIR, where anyway we would be categorically removed from the citizenship rights. Now we are even removed from complete civil rights. How different is it? I really don't know. I mean, like, yeah, that's where I stop.
Nikhil, would you like to add?
Yeah, I also believe similarly, like, um, you know, again, I haven't completely transitioned yet, right? If I, what do you say, in certain cases of emergency, um, because I haven't legally transitioned, I can still, to an extent, hold an identity that is of my, of the gender that I don't associate with. But like specifically like trans men who have completely transitioned to a place where they've legally transitioned, they've completely medically transitioned, like they essentially, what do you say, become like second class citizens, with uh, no legal recognition and no civil rights. Yeah.
Right, SIR is like is about they are going to choose who is going to vote for them. They are choosing from the people actually who are the people. And I was also was part of this. I participated this talk where they were discussing about how women cannot now they don't prove on the basis of their in-laws to be in the voter list. If they are once discarded from the voter list, they cannot use their in-laws or refer their in-laws. And I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I sort of heard while I joined this discussion. So all over if you look all over this place, they are trying to uh, bind all the rights related to women to in-laws, or a woman has to identify with their in-laws, the husband. But now, when it is about political rights, they cannot somehow. They have no say in that. So I think if anyone else has to add something. If anyone wants to share anything, please say, or I think we should wind up. I think.
So can I leave because I need to finish some work on an emergency? If there's anything for me to add, or if you want to ask me anything.
No, I don't think so. I think it's. Thank you for joining.
Okay, bye. Thank you so much for giving me this chance.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We will organize.
Bye.
We are going to organize the talk around this only. GS Cash on the GS
Yeah.
Cash. Okay. Hope to see you again.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Bye.
Bye. So again, I'm sincerely thank you to all of you for joining us today. Hope together, hopefully, we will defeat this bill and we will meet again. If anyone else has to say, can say, or I think we should end this. I think we should end it. So, Nikhil, last, if you want to.
No, thank you so much for having me here. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. It's very important to raise awareness about the bill and talk about how draconic it is and how important it is for us to stop it from getting passed. And we need to at least send it to a standing committee Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for organizing this.
Okay, thank you all of you for joining us this today. We will keep organizing this talk from AISA GS Cash, and we will meet in struggles. Thank you, all of you. Live revolutionary eating. Thank you.